Mars, the god of war, entered Libra Sunday, August 27th, where he will be until October 11th. So this is a roughly 6-week transit where Mars, the god of war, will be traveling through the Airy Yang cardinal temple of Venus. And Mars in Libra is considered in his detriment. We haven't seen Mars in Libra for a couple years now. And the reason Mars is considered in his detriment in Libra is because, Mars likes to fight, Mars likes to confront, Mars likes to compete. Mars cuts, he burns. He's a fiery, hot guy. He's considered hot and dry, to be exact, whereas Libra is considered warm and moist. And Libra is about peace and harmony and marriage and beauty and art and justice. And so to have Mars coming in and bringing fighting and competition and confrontation into the realm of beauty and art and justice and marriage, well, you can see why those energies don't necessarily go together. And so, for all of September, so he enters August 27th, and all of September, he's kind of like a lone wolf, kind of traveling on his own through Libra, not really interacting with any of the other planets in the cosmos. And so, there's a real lone wolf energy to Mars. And, besides some of the other significations I just mentioned, Mars also, within a family structure, he's going to represent brothers. He represents men. He represents soldiers. He represents police, athletes. But Mars can even be surgeons because of his cutting. And so, he's so he's in Libra and he's traveling like a lone wolf through all of September. And then October 1st, the very first aspect he makes. Oh, and by the way, I just want to go back and say, just because he's traveling in like a lone wolf in in the mundane transits does not mean that for your own personal astrology. So if this Mars in Libra interacts with your own personal planets by degree, there will be some Mars in Libra kinds of experiences that come up for you during this 6-week period. And Mars in Libra experiences can include anything from tough negotiations, because Libra's negotiations and Mars is fighting. He's the god of war. Fighting for Libran themes. So fighting for love, fighting for art, fighting for peace, fighting for justice. All of that kind of stuff are the kinds of situations that can come up when Mars in Libra is interacting with your personal planets. And I also want to say, if you have personal planets in the air signs like Gemini or Aquarius, this Mars transit will be very uplifting. It'll bring probably really clear and sharp, smart communication, writing, thinking, all of those kinds of things, because it'll be creating trines with the Aquarius and or Gemini planets. However, if you have a lot of planets or any planets in cardinal signs like Aries, Cancer, or Capricorn, this Mars will be fighting with those planets and causing a conflict that calls for action of some kind. And yes, squares are challenging aspects, but they're not to be feared because they're important. The entire physical universe is made up of 90-degree angles. We need them to build. But they do require, there's a call for action during a square. So again, if you have a lot of cardinal signs or, your sun, moon, rising is cardinal, you're going to probably experience some of these Libra and Mars and Libra kinds of occurrences. Another thing about Mars is that Mars is naturally ruled by Aries, right? And so Mars is very decisive and very direct. And Libra is more indecisive. Libra vacillates in decision making. And so for some people, if Mars interacts with their personal planets, that's how it'll hit. You know, Mars in Libra, because Mars, when it's in his home sign, Aries, is so action oriented, you know, and so impulsive. Mars in Libra can wait forever, weighing the pros and cons endlessly before ever making a decision. Or sometimes Mars in Libra can be associated with laziness, or it's not necessarily laziness. I think it's more inaction because too much in the head. You know, because Libra, yeah, it's that weighing of the pros and cons, always wanting to be fair, vacillating. So that can come up for certain people depending on how it interacts with the personal astrology. Other things, you know, because Mars in Aries in his home sign is like a warrior and a soldier, you know, Mars in Libra can be the opposite. It can bring up like a doormat, you know, or, you know, Mars in Libra is definitely a lover, not a fighter, but definitely willing to fight for love. And so you see this interplay. Also, because Libra rules art, Mars can bring about fighting around art competitions, you know, the burning of art, the cutting of art, you know, maybe you're just editing art. It can bring controversy around art. And then the same applies to beauty, you know, controversy around beauty, fighting over or around beauty, competition, beauty competitions, all of that is Mars and Libra. What other things do I want to say about Mars and Libra? I have, oh yeah, because Libra rules marriage, sometimes Mars and Libra can be competing spouses, or Mars is tension and Libra is sex, so it can bring sexual tension. Mars in Libra can also signify provocative art. There's also the justice side of Libra, and so Mars in Libra can bring up lawsuits, legal battles. Mars is an advocate, so it can be advocating for beauty, advocating for art, advocating for marriage, advocating for any of the Venusian themes, you know, justice. You know, Mars can bring violence, and to Libra, that's violence around beautiful things, violence around the law, you know, things. There are so many different ways the archetype can express, but I'm just giving you an idea of how to mix and match the various combinations, and you can even extrapolate from there and even kind of come up with your own ideas of where you see this. But this is, you know, this is the Mars vibe. But again, in the mundane transits, meaning for the general collective, he's not interacting with any planets all of September. But in October, October 1st, he forms a sextile with Juno, the asteroid planet, who rules marriage, which is interesting because he's in the sign of marriage. And so there is a flirting here. There could be a flirting with the idea of marriage, but there could just the same be a flirting with the idea of divorce or a breakup. This transit can bring either side of that coin. And then the main transits that Mars makes on the mundane level and the world level, collective level, is the opposition to Eris, goddess of discord, October 3rd, which, you know, Eris is the, she represents a very intense, dark part of the divine feminine. She's the street fighter. She wants truth at all costs, justice at all costs. So she is often, you know, she's angry where she doesn't see truth or justice happening. And so, you know, she can be considered a destroyer. She can be considered a street fighter. And so Mars in Libra versus Eris in Aries could definitely be, you know, fighting within relationships, legal battles, lawsuits, those kinds of things. And then it can be fighting with women. And then October 4th, the opposition to the North Node in Aries and the conjunction to the South Node. So this is a place where this is a really interesting aspect, because there's Mars cuts. So Mars and Libra. So there's a cutting of ties, it looks like, in order for a new start to be happening. And so it's like there is maybe a relationship that needs to be severed in order for the bold new start that is emerging. And then October 8th, the square to Pluto is Mars square Pluto. It's two malefics coming up against each other. So that's always very, tends to indicate difficult experiences. This can bring up issues of power, domination, control. For the collective, it can definitely bring up, you know, police issues with the patriarchy, issues with, you know, the patriarchal power structures and the police and the conflicts that are created by that. All of that can be, you know, it's, we can see intense legal battles and lawsuits that are very transformative to the collective, that are at the fore during this time. On a personal level, you know, this is going to, if you have any planets at 27 degrees or any angles at 27, 28 degrees, this could be more of a personal thing to you. Mars passing over Pluto in this conflict, you know, there's a conflict. It can be a power struggle, you know, it can be domination and you know, and again, this is like, if you're a parent, this is, you know, could be a power struggle with your kids, but you know, on the streets, for somebody it could be a power struggle with law enforcement or the police, or for others it could be a power struggle involving the courts or justice. You know, it operates at these different levels, and for some people this can be an internal psychological conflict where there is some, you know, long-standing transformation that someone's been making in an area of their life where it's being tested at this point. So there are so many different ways the archetypes present. Again, I'm just giving you an idea of what this Mars and Libra season will offer over the next 6 weeks. And you know, it's best to watch all of my videos if you can, because they all talk about, I break down the planets in different areas. So there's all these overlapping timelines, all of these overlapping threads that each of the planets are governing through our lives. And, you know, again, Mars, like we've been talking about, he has to do with conflict and war. But Mars also has to do with how we go for our desires, how we go for what we want. He has to do with our libido and things like that. But I definitely encourage you, go watch my Venus retrograde in Leo video, and even my Venus in Leo video, because those videos are still active right now. And they will give you a lot of information about what's going on with Venus in the realm of love and art and beauty. Because Mars will be ruled by Venus for, you know, while he's in Libra. So it's important to see her condition to have even deeper understanding into what it is that Mars is fighting for, what it is that Mars is competing for, what it is that Mars wants to burn down or cut, you know, like, looking at what's going on with Venus will give you a lot more insight to this Mars transit. And then also, I'd also watch my Mercury videos, Mercury in Virgo, Mercury retrograde in Virgo videos that I did earlier this, you know, just go back through my timeline or through my videos. But Those are both active now, and we'll give you a lot of information about what's going on in the realms of communications in the cosmos, and in the realms of, you know, our written and spoken word and our intellect. And also watch my new moon of Leo video, because that was the most recent new moon. And so it describes the entire lunar cycle that we're in, building up to the full moon that's coming up this week, the full blue moon in Pisces, which I'm going to do its own video about because it deserves its own video. And then waning all the way down until the next new moon, which will be the new moon of Virgo. So please get up to date on all of the content. When you put all the videos together, you see how all of the threads interact of these varying storylines and varying relationships in our life. And it's just so interesting. And contact me for a reading. I love to do readings. Working one-on-one and getting to know your chart with an astrologer is such a just enlightening and affirming and empowering experience. I can't say enough good things about it. So if you're on the fence, it brings nothing but greater awareness and fascination and wonder to life. So I would love to read for you, and thank you for joining me for the Mars into Libra video. Have a great Mars and Libra season.